Good morning, everybody. It's Annalisa here for a Wellbeing Wednesday chat. Right, so if you haven't seen me before and for some reason I happen to pop up on your screen or somebody shared it or I don't know, other things happen. My name is Annalisa Vaughan. I'm an Italian soprano, lived in the UK for over 30 years now, and I run Project Opera, which is the opera company based on the Isle of Wight, as well as providing a little bit of vocal coaching for well-being. On a Wednesday, I usually co-run with my friend David Rowe an anxiety support group called the Wellbeing Singing Group. Nearly forgot, it's been so long since we last met. Anyway, during lockdown, obviously we are still not allowed to gather and run classes, particularly with any singing involved. So since the beginning of lockdown, I've been live streaming for the benefit of those people who really sort of rely on being able to interact with people and discuss things such as anxiety and depression. And sometimes it's nice to just see a friendly face and just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. Right, so this morning, while I was having my coffee and thinking, normally the night before, I go on Facebook and I ask people, well, first of all, I remind people I'm going to come on and chat at you on Facebook on a Wednesday morning. But I also ask people if there's something they would like to talk about. I'm embarrassed to say, I just played video games with the kids and then my husband last night. So completely forgot until it was too late. And then I thought, never mind, we'll come up with something. And we did. I saw a friend of mine shared the BBC News. There was an article about scrapping the whole idea of all children going back to school by July, simply because, as we've seen actually at my children's school as well, we were given a date by which we were expected to send, I think it was year 1 and 6 were supposed to go in. And of those, the school is still not quite ready to welcome everybody. And they also wanted to know if people were, how people were feeling about the children going back to school. So we are not going back yet, but of course the schools have been open to children who have needed to be in school before then, whether people, whether their parents were essential workers or just in need of the support from school, both from the meal side of things and childcare. And I think what impressed me most about that the news article this morning was not so much the same old news that, quite frankly, I mean, we could have guessed this wasn't going to work, to be honest. But there was a video made by a few children sharing their thoughts and experience about their first day back at school. And of course, it must be weird. It must be so strange when you're used to school being really loud and full of people, full of children, being able to run around and play with your friends and all of that. And then you go back and it's very quiet and eerie, I would imagine. But one of the children said, "You can't whisper." And that made me think. I mean, over the past few years, I have volunteered at my children's school with sort of one-to-one reading. And of course, I went to school when I was little. So it all sort of flooded back to me, the number of children who are very quiet, especially when perhaps quite shy, or I think we're all quite shy at some point. I'm thinking of children, for instance, when you're opening school to years 1 and 6. If you're watching and you're not from the UK, Year 1 children are about 5 years old. Year 6, 10 years old. But if you have a 5-year-old child and they really need to go for a wee, you don't necessarily want to shout it to the class, "Miss, can I go to the toilet?" Do you? So you tend to have a child who really wants to be very discreet, perhaps actually more so in year 6. You might have little girls wanting to go to the toilet and putting your hand up and needing to say, "I would like to go to the toilet, please, thank you very much." It can be quite self-conscious. I don't know whether maybe they have hand signals for specific things at school. I'm sure teachers can be very clever about communicating with children. I'm sure it's I've met so many teachers. I know you guys are great. But from the children's point of view, it can be daunting and a real challenge. So I thought, well, I can help there a little bit, because one of the things I do when I'm allowed to go out and about and teach my classes is I run workshops for teachers in voice projection. So not so much from the singing point of view, but simply using a similar sort of technique that I've learned as a singer, as of course opera relies on a big sound without any microphones. So I teach that technique that helps me project my voice when I sing to public speakers and teachers who need to be heard. And we haven't quite got to the point where we're teaching children yet, but I'm hoping that perhaps with this video, a lot of parents will be able to discuss voice projection with their children, and perhaps we can have a go together and see if I can help in any way. I usually charge for my workshops, but this is an unusual time, and I realize that a lot of people don't even think about going for vocal coaching for something like that. Most teachers don't get vocal coaching at all. It's not part of their curriculum, unless you're very fortunate, very lucky, and you somehow come across the idea or thought about it for yourself. So here it is, only freebie. So I'm recording it for YouTube as well, so that I can make it available for families and children and so on. I hope it's useful. So how do we go about projecting a voice? What is that all about? Well, in the olden days, we didn't have microphones. Right now, I'm talking to you across the big, great wide web, thanks to the fact that I'm talking into a laptop and a video camera that have a camera and a microphone. But in the olden days, when people didn't have laptop or computer, and they didn't have television, they didn't even have the radio or even telephones or anything like that, to keep each other entertained, they'd be telling stories, and they had theatres. The first place I think that we are aware of, perhaps not because it was the first place, but more so because the architecture still stands after thousands of years. If you go and visit Greece, or where I come from Sicily, which is an island south of Italy, but many centuries ago it was ruled by the Greeks. It was part of the Greek Empire and then part of the Roman Empire. So we have still there, famously, one of the places is called Segesta. We have amphitheatres. Now what they are is that they're open air spaces, sometimes where the land has been dug up, and then they've set up seats for the audience to sit in sort of slopes. Or sometimes the land lends itself to that sort of setup. And what you would have is you would have the stage at the bottom, And people could talk and tell stories, and you can hear it all throughout the theatre. And the theatres are quite big, they hold thousands of people. And wherever you sit, you will be able to hear the speech. So theatre in those days didn't just have, of course, it wasn't just storytelling, they also had music, and they had singing, they had masks, all wonderful stuff. And that's pretty much where opera comes from, where opera it's inspired from, where centuries later people thought, actually we can design theatres so that even when it rains, we can still go and listen to music and watch people tell stories and sing, and we can hear everything. But getting the sound isn't just down to the architecture. It is also down to the performers being able to project their voice. And sometimes, if you've ever heard an actor, now I say this, we've been watching movies and series sometimes where you get Hollywood actors. Can be really frustrating from my point of view, because one minute you've got really loud music and then you've got the whispering hero and you can't hear anything. Seriously, because it's all about whispering. And this is what whispering is, yes? When you whisper and you want to share something just between you and me. Now, can you hear me? By the way, if you're watching, please say hello, because it tells me I'm not just talking to myself. When I'm actually looking at my camera and my laptop, and all I can see is two versions of my face just grinning back at me, and it's a bit weird. Yeah, so if you are watching, please say hi. Thank you. Yes, so this is how people whisper most of the time. Not a ghost, it's my dog. The door is just opened. Hello, Oscar. My dog, Oscar. I'm just going to close the door. I'll be right back. So, come back. So we whisper for a number of different reasons. You might have something very secret you want to say. Or, like a lot of people, hi! Like a lot of people, you might just be very shy. Some people of all ages, actually, you could be little, you could be only 5 years old, or you could be 50 years old. Some people get anxious. Do you know what that means? When we're anxious, it means that we are worried about stuff. And sometimes it's not even necessarily real stuff, or it might be real, but we don't know what it is. Do you know that feeling where you just go, do you know, my heart is beating fast and I don't feel very comfortable about just generally myself being anywhere. And you can't really explain why. And that is called anxiety. It's to be anxious. And sometimes there could be a very good reason. In fact, I think most of the time people are anxious for a reason, but we just don't always know why. Because there are we have two levels of awareness. You have the way our senses work, when we touch and we see things and we hear things, and we are conscious of what's going on around us. What we see, what we're looking at, what we're listening to, we are aware of what's going on. We're aware of what we can smell and hear and see. And that is our conscious mind, right? But our brain is very clever and it's always on the go, right? It's always paying attention to stuff. So you could be looking at me right now, but at the same time your eyes can see all sorts of things around what you are looking at. Now they'll be out of focus because you're not looking at those things, but it doesn't mean that your brain isn't picking out on everything what is called the peripheral vision. And our peripheral vision, we can see all sorts of things, and our brain takes it all in. Our hearing is just the same. So you could be listening to me, but your ears, in the meantime, are sending up to your brain the fact that they've heard, for instance, what I can hear my little girl in the kitchen who I bet you is having yet another glass of squash when I said no squash in the morning, and because you need to look after your teeth. I can hear the cars outside. I'm not focusing on the sound, because if I was to do that all the time, it will drive me mad, because there'll be too much noise. So what my conscious mind picks up on is only really the sounds that I want to hear, because I'm paying attention. It doesn't mean that the sounds are not there. So those extra sounds, those peripheral sounds, are getting computed into our subconscious mind. So the brain picks it all up and it stores it away. Now, subconscious means that it's under your awareness. So you're aware of everything that's going on, and your subconscious mind is a little bit like, now I see my friend Massimiliano there, he's watching now, he's a computer person. So now, what do we call, Massimiliano, see if I can see your comments, can you help me? Oh, he says I'm not alone, thank you, I'm not alone. I want to know, Massimo, what is the computer version of subconscious mind? Would that be the hard drive? I don't know. I have no understanding of computers. So let us know if you can, so people can understand. People understand computers more than psychology. What do we call it? Perhaps if you're still there, you let me know. So, yeah. So there is this thing. So when we feel worried sometimes and we don't know why, chances are we've picked up on something that, because we haven't really looked at or listened and thought about it properly, we haven't talked about it, it just sits in our subconscious mind and it makes us feel a little bit peculiar. Now, at this point in time, when I'm making this recording or during this live stream, here in the UK, we're all in lockdown. Schools have been open for children whose parents are doctors, nurses, perhaps they run food shops where people need to get their food and everything. So children have been going to school, but everybody knows about this virus, this COVID-19. You know, I say virus, what I'm thinking of is back at the turn of the 20th century, talking about computers and computer viruses. Everybody thought that the internet would just die because it couldn't cope with the year 2000. That was hilarious. Everybody thought, oh, we would have no electricity and no heating because the computers would just crash. No, we were fine. I think the whole of 1 minute everybody held their breath. And then it was the year 2000, 21st centuries, and it was the noughties, and everybody thought, yeah, we can just chill. So everything's fine. But people just sort of worry, more, especially if they don't really know how they can be affected by things. So both children and grown-ups, of course, will have found themselves in a position where they're a bit anxious. And for most people, now I focus on the voice. So for most people, I observe people either find that they are talking very quietly all the time, or sometimes they actually get a little bit, well, they know that they have to be heard, they know that they have to speak, but they're so tense that actually comes out like they're shouting. Does that make sense? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So why is that? What happens? What happens there? Let's look at the mechanics a little bit of the voice. Now, if you close your eyes with me, have a little feel with your tongue at the roof of your mouth. We'll start in the roof of your mouth, and then you're going to work your way back with your tongue till you feel the back of the mouth. Yeah? So you've got your hard palate right above your tongue. And if you keep moving your tongue towards the back of your mouth, you then get a ridge in the hard palate. The hardness stops and you get a soft membrane. Now that is called the soft palate. Yeah, it's got loads of other sciencey names like the velum or whatever. It's the soft palate, okay? Now, what we can do is that we can stretch the soft palate. We do it naturally when we yawn like this. Would you have a big yawn again? Again with me. Go on, big yawn. And have a real feel of that soft palate. Did you feel it? Did you feel it stretch? Or other times, we stretch the soft palate without even realizing it, in our subconscious, there you go. When we're shocked, say we're surprised because somebody's got us a present and we go, or I don't know, we've seen that everybody's eaten the cake and they didn't leave us any. I said the cake, there's always a cake in my house. Recently, loads of birthdays or just, something to do. Usually trying to get children to do maths at home. Have you been baking? I've been baking lots. So say all the cake's gone and you walk in and it's all gone. All together. Now gasp. So did you feel the soft palate just go whoosh? It's a bit like a kite in the wind or the sail of a boat in the wind. It lifts. Now we need to use that. When we're yawning or when we're gasping, we do that because it's our body's own way of taking in a lot of air, filling our lungs with air, and we stretch all the muscles in our throat and chest. And stretching is very good for us. And we do it to be taking more oxygen so our body feels all refreshed and relaxed instead of tense, right? So what I teach people, I teach people how to do that, but how to learn to do it all the time. Because why? Right. And I was asking earlier, why do people whisper? Sometimes we whisper because we want to be quiet. Sometimes we whisper because we can't help ourselves, right? Because when, if we're tired, or we're worried, or we just don't feel very well, our muscles tense up. Now, as our muscles tense up, the muscles in our throat tense up. And that just makes the space in our throat smaller. So, how do we make voice? We have little muscles in our throat called the vocal cords. That as we breathe in and out, and we decide that we want to speak or we want to sing, we want to make a noise, our brain tells us, we want to make a sound. And as the air goes past, the vocal cords, I think what it is that when we want to make a sound, the brain tells the vocal cords to do a thing. And as the air goes past, the vibrations are picked up and we make sound. Now, if your muscles in your throat are quite tense and the space is only little, you're not going to get a big sound. So what singers do, opera singers like me, is that every time we prepare for a phrase, so every time we breathe, because we need to breathe all the time. So every time we breathe into the soft palate, so we open up the throat. Some people say you can't open up a throat. You know what I mean. It relaxes the muscles in the throat so that there's more space. And with there being more space, it's like, have you ever been to a museum? Or if you're a child and you're at school, or even a grown-up student and you're at school, if you step in the hall, it's a bigger room, the ceiling is higher, the room is bigger. If you're on your own, you will notice that there's a bigger sound. Actually, even with people. It's not just the number of people in the hall that makes a sound, it's the space. It's the size of the vibrations, I suppose. So we're creating a space to make a bigger sound. So, let's do some exercises together. We're going to start with some breathing to get used to the soft palate stretching, okay? And I'm quickly just going to check in case, 'cause I can't always see comments. Ah. There you go. Massimiliano tells me the subconscious of the computer. He thinks it's the central processing unit, the CPU. Or not the hard drive. I have no idea what a hard drive is anyway, so don't worry about it. If you're watching this on YouTube at a later point and you're not actually seeing these comments, sorry. It's my way. I can't really do things on my own. I'm not very good. So anyway, good. So let's start with some exercises. I think what I'll do, I'm going to stand, okay? See if that makes it any better or any different. This is where I put the camera really low. So, actually no. I had thought about this and then I'd forgotten. I usually stand up. If you're in school, you will be sitting, okay? So let's do it sitting down. So, breathe in like a little gasp, and then we're going to blow, but blow very slowly. Imagine you've got to blow 10 candles on a cake with one breath, but instead of blowing like the big bad wolf all at once and then you get wax everywhere, right? We want one very long breath, blowing out the candles one by one, okay? So let's breathe in. Hold it for a second to allow the air to go right to the bottom of your lungs, and then blow. Let's do that 2 more times and really visualize a cake, birthday cake. It's got to be birthday because it's got to have candles, right? So imagine you've got 10 candles. So you take a big breath in as a little gasp and then blow the candles out one by one. And see if you can make a wish for everyone, okay? If you run out of air, don't worry. We'll just take another breath and see if you can do better next time. So breathe in and blow. Now I've run out of air on the 8th candle, so I'm gonna have another go. Quick breath in and blow. I've got 9 candles. Do you know? I don't like to leave jobs unfinished. So we're gonna have one last go, okay? Try not to take too big a big breath because you don't want to then get all dizzy, okay? So just a quick like that, okay? So ready, go. And I just about managed the last candle. Did you see that as I was pushing out the last bit of air, as soon as the last bit of air was out completely, I went, that's because our body is very, very clever. Now, when we gasp, when we take it, even if it's a small breath, as long as we breathe into the soft palate and we stretch the soft palate, what happens is that breathing in through our mouth, soft palate out, the air comes in all in one go because our mouth is open. There's a big space, much bigger than our nose. Excuse me, and then I'll start burping. Sorry, it's the air, it's the exercise. So yes, so because there's a bigger space and more air going in because we're breathing in through the mouth, the air goes straight into the bottom of our lungs so that all of our lungs fill up. Usually, most people, when they're just breathing through the nose and they're quite relaxed, or even if they're tense and they're just breathing like they used to, they don't fill the whole lungs with air. They just use about, a bit, whether it's 1/3 or 2/3 of the lungs. But very rarely do we actually breathe into the bottom part of our lungs. So if you breathe in through the mouth and into the soft palate, the air goes whoosh down into the bottom of your lungs. So if we gasp and we just hold the breath for a moment, we allow time for the air to settle and the lungs to be nice and full, nice and relaxed, nice and fresh, full of fresh air. And then we guide the air out. So, then voice projection, the next bit. I'd like you to do some humming with me so that we can have an understanding. So first of all, we're now aware of the soft palate and of the need to lift it so we have more space in the throat. Yes? The next thing, let's do some humming so we can feel where we need to project a voice from, or rather where we focus the voice, and then we'll add space to that to make the sound, right? To increase the size of the sound. So let's do some humming. As you normally would. We'll go. Okay, so that's nice and quiet, nice and simple, together. Now, let's go up a little, do another note, but open your mouth and try and see how nasal a sound you can make. Can you feel the vibrations in your nose? We'll go. Yeah, have a go with me. Going up. We'll do a couple more. Raise your cheeks and see if you can smile as you hum, and see where you can feel the vibrations. You should be able to feel vibrations there, sort of above your lip, through your nostrils, through your nose, and in your eyes and around your eyes, and hopefully towards the top of your head and everywhere else. I can even feel it in my ears. So, together. One more. Good. Ooh. Can you feel the vibrations in your ears? I could. That's why I always say to people, vibrations are great. Making vibrations with hums are fantastic. If you've got earache, if you can't hear very well, because producing vibrations actually creates all sorts of movement of any sort of the gunky stuff, any mucus or wax you might have blocking your earways and your airways. You can dislodge everything and feel a lot better after a good hum. Good. So we are now aware of where we need to focus the sound. So if you think of humming, and then this is about talking, so we won't do too much in the way of singing. So let's do I-O. Simple vowels, okay? I'll say them again, in case you forgot what they are. When was the last time you went to school? I last went to school, can't remember, I really can't. So, we'll go I-O. Now, I feel that's quite projected from me. Let's try it again. Relax. Let's try and think, how would you normally say your vowels without the bit thinking about the soft palate and everything else? You might just say I-O. See, that's how people normally talk. Unless you shout it. This is your voice. You'll go A-E-I-O-U. But if you want to be heard by somebody all the way over there, okay, breathe in. I-O. Ooh, was that louder? So it was. You try and let me know. Let me know if you find you louder. So you breathe into the soft palate, so breathe in through the mouth, and then just speak. One more time. A-E-I-O-U. So, as well as a soft palate, the next thing I'd like to think of, obviously you can't be humming while you're talking, But raise your cheeks, smile. And do you remember when you were humming, you could feel the vibrations across your mask, sort of across your nose and cheeks and eyes and ears. Try and talk to people through your eyes. I remember when I was little, people always used to say, the eyes are the mirror of the soul. Have you ever heard that saying? Yeah. People would say to me till I was born. So they are. So make sure that you're not necessarily throwing the sound out there. You don't want to speak at people. What communicates language and thoughts and feelings even more than any word, and this, you can see this through music. And opera, people sing and perform in so many different languages, and everybody still loves it, even if they don't understand the language, because they understand the feeling. So what communicates more than words is our body language and our expressions. So rather than aiming to talk at people just with your mouth, forget the mouth completely and talk to people with your eyes. Look at them, smile, make sure that they know you're there by smiling. Sometimes people feel very self-conscious about smiling. They feel, I don't know, the number of people I see. These days you get a lot of people who perhaps want to be singers, and they're using social media to record themselves singing, and they share the recordings on the internet. And a lot of them don't smile because they feel they're not pretty enough, they're not good enough singers. Forget it. I'm probably not the most beautiful of people. Why? But if I look at you like this, I'm really not pretty. But if I smile, I defy you to say I'm not pretty. So talk to people, smile at people, have the words and feelings of what you're saying come out through your eyes, right? And that makes the sound bigger in itself. Whispering. If you want to whisper to a friend and you perhaps don't want to sometimes people just like to whisper. You could be sharing a secret, or you could be saying something that, it's part of how we present a discussion, a conversation, just bringing in different sounds to our conversation. You can't always just speak like this because it gets a little bit boring. So you can still whisper. How do we whisper? Now let's have a go. Let's say 3 blind mice, okay? Now whisper as you normally would. 3 blind mice. Now who heard this? Did you hear me? Did you hear me? I'm saying 3 blind mice. Now, breathe into the soft palate and say 3 blind mice. Did you hear that? How can we tell the difference? Well, the difference, I see people are not communicating with me anymore. Please talk to me. So the difference is that instead of pushing, so this is the other thing, because I was talking earlier about conscious and subconscious. In our conscious mind, we are very, very much aware that we talk with our mouth. So when we talk and we want to be heard, we tend to push the voice through the mouth and out of the throat and through the mouth. Yes? Actually, that tenses up the throat and it makes the sound smaller. And if you do manage to make it loud, it's just going to sound like shouting, a bit like this. So if I'm trying to push the voice, hello Jed, thank you very much for still being there. So say it now, I'm trying to project my voice so that you can hear me. And I was trying to sort of, 1 minute I was whispering and now I'm talking. Now, can you hear that my voice is louder, but it's also crackly. And it sounds like I'm not very happy. Is that right? Well, it feels like that to me. My throat already hurts. But how about you think out the box a little bit? What I always talk about, if you watch my other videos or if you come to my sessions, I always go on about visualizing ourselves like marbles. If you were a marble and your body is just the colored bit in the middle, when you speak and when you sing, the sound doesn't come out from your mouth, it doesn't come from your throat, not just there anyway. You actually want to focus on your core. So if you place your hands just above your belly button, you want to be using those muscles to speak and to sing, especially when you're whispering, okay? So try and really relax, try and really smile, breathe into the soft palate, and let's say 3 blind mice together. 3 blind mice. Let's see how quietly, how much we can whisper, but we're still projecting the voice. So we still really push the sound only from our tummy. We'll go 3 blind mice. How quiet can you make it? 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. Now that is whispering, because it's whispering that you can be quiet, but people can still hear that you're there. And that can be so important, because actually most of the time, especially in school, if your teacher wants to know your opinion, you need to put your hand up and be part of the lesson. You might not want to be really loud, but the teacher needs to hear you. So project your voice from your tummy. Have your throat nice and open. So like this. So say, I don't know, what is the capital of Italy? Because that's where I'm from. And I know my friend Massimo, he's from there. He's from the capital. So what's the capital of Italy? Let's whisper from our tummy, Rome. You see, it's not very loud, but you heard it. The capital of Italy is Rome. What is the capital of England? The capital of England is London. Now you see, I'm very calm. I'm not shouting. Absolutely. So Massimo says, how do you say, may I go to the toilet? Absolutely. You don't want to be going, Miss, can I go to the loo? No, you want to be saying, you put your hand up and your teacher will see you. And then you can quietly say from your tummy, may I go to the toilet, please? And actually, looking at your teacher, raising your cheeks to really project the voice, it will create a direct connection between you and the teacher. And the voice will be so nice and warm and lovely that nobody will be thinking, oh, they need to go to the toilet. It would just be a sound, a bit of communication that's happened between you and the teacher. And it can be quiet and discreet. Discreet, that's the word. Sorry. So, let's have another go. Breathing to the soft palate. Smile. And from your tummy, may I go to the toilet, please? See? You're laughing at me. Well, there's no harm in laughing. I think that's part of it. The great thing. It's really, really important to be able to laugh at yourself, and then you can laugh with other people too. I actually found that quite a few people have been running into the street these days. People I don't even know. They're saying to me that what's really great about lockdown is that because we are more aware of other people, we find that we're smiling more. We are saying hello to people we don't know. We are thanking them for crossing the road and keeping us safe. And that's amazing and it's fantastic. But I also noticed that when I see people I do know, and we're 2 meters apart, it's really difficult to hear one another, especially if you run into each other in the street or at the park, and it can be sort of quite noisy. It's really important to be able to talk like this. You see, now my voice is projected. I'm now making a point of projecting my voice, but I'm not shouting. If we were standing 2 meters apart from one another, you would hear me. You could hear every single word I was saying. Now, this brings me to another matter. Diction. Diction is how you pronounce words, how you say the words. And it's very, very important. For singers, diction is everything. In opera, a lot of people come up to me and they say, I don't like opera. I'm sorry, I'm not going to come to your gig because opera is just not my thing. And you say, really? Ah, bless. Why? And I say, well, because all you hear is people going, wah, 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 wah. And I could totally relate. I remember years ago, I think it was 1998, possibly. I got a job to pay for my singing lessons as a bus conductor. Now, bus conductors in the olden days, it's not the driver